Glad you are with us again on Conquering Retirement. Brad Johansen with Northern Alliance Financial, Lance Gilman, CEO, Blake King, CFP. Gentlemen, a pleasure again.
Here we go again.
Well,
Start the engines.
Speaking of here we go again, we're going second edition on Conquering Retirement. Lance has put this together. We're going to talk about the book, what's in it, why you need it, and how it can simplify your retirement. We're trying to figure it out. So congrats on second edition. Take me through it. Why second edition?
Well, there's been some pretty major changes since the publishing of the first edition, most specifically the passage in 2025 of the Social Security Fairness Act, which changed the fabric of Social Security and also how that interacts with the main state retirement and those who would be affected by either the windfall elimination provision, the WEP, or the government pension offset. So those two things really changed the fabric of how Social Security played in, which was chapter 4 of the book. So it required a complete rewrite.
Okay. And obviously going through it, do we need to talk about changes within the office as well, or we'll talk about that later?
Well, no, I think there have been some pretty significant changes. So our Chief Operations Officer, Mick Roy, retired at the end of 2025. And so we have replaced Mick, although kind of irreplaceable, but the new Chief Operations Officer is going to be Brittany Harrington. And she also is an advisor. And so she's going to be moving into doing some advising, our first female advisor. So we're pretty excited about that.
Will we have the option of getting Brittany on the air here at some point?
We're pushing for it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Coming for you to do a little Conquering Retirement on the air. Looking forward to that. Well, congratulations on both of those things. As we move into, I don't know, maybe I just flip through. Maybe I just start going through. You always talk about the preparation for battle, which is really putting together the plan and is the basis for all of this. Do you have people poo-poo any of the ideas of walking in and saying, why do I need this whole comprehensive plan? I've been working for 40 years with an advisor, and they didn't talk about any plan. They just said, let's go in the market, we'll put our money in the market. And why does this have to change?
Yeah. Well, I think that's very short-sighted, right? So there's all different types of financial advisors out there, and they can carry any title that they want to carry, right? But what a lot of clients that walk through our doors come to realize just within the first meeting is they have a portfolio manager. They don't have a retirement specialist. The difference between the two is a portfolio manager makes sure that they look at your investments and manage according to where you are in life. And they just want to get you rates of returns, right? They want to make sure your money grows or is protected. Where us, fiduciary retirement specialists, we concentrate not only on portfolio management, but everything's outlined in Lance's book as well. We talk about income, we talk about budgeting, we talk about cash flow, we talk about long-term care, we talk about estate planning. And what's super fascinating is when people walk through the doors, they're like, I've had this advisor for 20, 30 years, and they've never brought any of this to my attention. And so they leave walking out of that first meeting, they're just like, wow, there's this whole world where I just didn't know existed, and I don't feel like I've been getting the advice that I've been deserved throughout these last 20, 30 years. And so just by being a holistic and all-inclusive financial planning practice, it really gives a lot of people comfort and peace of mind just walking out of the first meeting.
You start with identify your goals, even in the first chapter. Well, my goal is not to run out of money. Is there something beyond identifying my goals? Maybe it is going beyond my necessities and what do I want my retirement to look like?
It's actually kind of interesting, Brad, because a lot of times when we have that initial question that's put out to somebody that's coming into the office, they want to just give us their statements. It's just like, here's my stuff. No. We don't need your statements yet. We want to learn about you. What's important to you? What does a successful retirement look like to you? And one of the greatest things about being a fiduciary financial advisor is the fact that Every person is different, Brad. Every single person that comes into the office is a little different, and their goals are a little different. But once they define those goals and they say, well, I had a couple of clients that came in few years ago, and one of the greatest things that they always dreamed about doing, they talk about doing since they were married, is going to Alaska. So they came into the office and they were in a kind of what we call the sweet spot. So they were in like 3 to 5 years from retirement, somewhere in there. So we had adequate time to build out a plan. We got them over the threshold, moving from full-time employment to full-time vacation. And the exciting thing was, because that was their number one thing that they told me, Brad, everything else that we do concentrates on the realization of that goal. And that was number one. So I said, the first thing that we need to do after we get all this settled, we get you on the other side of working full-time and into full-time vacation mode, we need to start planning this trip. And so that's what they did. And when they came back about 6 months after the retirement, they had actually accomplished the number one goal.
Yeah.
The number one goal, Brad, that they said was important. And that drives everything else in the planning process. And as an advisor, how rewarding is that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you talk about, hey, I have my stuff here. I guess that takes you into where are you now? Where are you right now with what we have to start figuring out, which going forward, which then becomes the income plan? Do people have a hard time assessing where they are now because they've just been in automatic mode for a while?
They do. I mean, there is a psychological shift moving from the accumulation phase to the decumulation phase. The accumulation phase is save, 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 grow, 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 live within your means, collect this paycheck. Well, when you get to the decumulation phase, that means all of that savings you did is now your paycheck. Your retirement portfolio, quote unquote, is your employer, right? And you want to make sure that you take care of that. And you want to make sure that you're not taking on any unnecessary risks. And so there is a major psychological shift because they were used to biweekly paychecks. And I've got clients that call, they're like, well, I've been used to a paycheck every 2 weeks. Is that possible? I was like, absolutely, it's possible. If you want a paycheck every 2 weeks because that's what you're used to, we can design and build that. And then you're going to have this cash flow coming from your pension. You're going to have this cash flow coming from your Social Security. So we're going to be able to give you some on a monthly basis and some on a biweekly basis so that you can feel comfortable in this process. But guess what? Say you do want to take that trip. You do want to go on that vacation. You can say, hey, I really want to take this family vacation. I think it's going to cost $30,000 to $50,000. Can you see if this is even possible or if this will derail us? And just be like, all right, we've got the written financial plan. Let's do the math. Let's figure it out. And we come back and be like, hey, you can take that trip. I mean, like as Lance said with his client, it's wildly rewarding being able to just put that smile on someone's face. I mean, I get hugs as clients walk out the door all the time. I mean, it's really, I know it can be a very scary process, but I mean, when you get to know us and we get to know you, it's not that way. It really isn't.
This is part of that, then calculating your income gap and your future income needs that go along with your goals and where you are right now. It may be said it's simple math, but it's really not simple math. It goes into the emotional factor of how do we work the numbers so that it becomes the retirement that you always wanted.
Right. And so it's a matter of budgeting. And a lot of times people haven't budgeted, and it's okay if you haven't. It's not like everybody does budgeting. It's the exception versus the rule, actually, people coming in that have done budgets. So if you haven't done a budget, perfectly okay. We'll help you to do that. We have tools that will help you do that. And what we're going to do is we're going to give you some software. We're going to give you some sheets to fill out, and we're going to build out your budget. What are you spending? What are you going to be spending in retirement? So then we're going to look at what your income is projected to be, what your outflow is projected to be, and then it's a matter of math. It's just looking at, okay, is our income greater than our outflow need? Check. If it's not, then we may have to take some money from what we've saved to augment what we have on the income side to make sure that we're above water here. And that's all it is. Mm-hmm. But it's complicated, Brad. And that the other thing is, if we look at your Social Security and you've got 2 Social Securities and you've paid off your debt, well, maybe that outflow need is less than what your 2 Social Security checks are going to be. In which case, all this extra money that you saved is just your fund money. And then we look at your goals and we say, hey, listen, you guys are all set. We've done the numbers. It's black and white. The math doesn't lie. Here it is. You can do this.
Mm-hmm.
Now what are we going to do with this?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go back to your goals.
Wouldn't you like to do this? That's the goal, to make sure it's the retirement of your dreams. 877-241-7430 to put together a complimentary written financial plan that is yours and yours alone. Have you been waiting? Do you need to go through the steps? Do you need somebody to help you into that lane? 877-241-7430. We'll be right back.
Our team at Northern Alliance is very diverse in terms of the services that we offer.
We do take a team-based approach.
We carry multiple licenses so that clients can do everything within the Northern Alliance financial team.
If it has anything to do with retirement, that's what we specialize in.
Budget planning, tax considerations, Social Security strategies, risk management, long-term care, Medicare, health planning, as well as legal and estate planning.
We really are a one-stop shop.
There's Lance Gilman, Peter Hansen, Jeremy Barnard, myself. We do have a staff that is great.
In Maine, we have multiple locations to cover the vast array of the state.
You know, you can come in and have a conversation in person. And a lot of people are looking for these days. Things after COVID have changed to more Zoom, phone call sort of things. And we'll do those things, but we appreciate and would rather have you come in person and have a conversation face to face like this.
We're pretty approachable, and we're going to listen to you. We're going to try to determine what your needs, your aspirations, those goals are, and then we're going to do everything that we possibly can to help you meet those goals.
It's lighthearted, it's carefree. We laugh like crazy. An atmosphere that I don't think is common in a lot of other practices.
We were talking about how well the team is bonding together, how similarly we all think in that what we do, we want to actually make a difference.
Average everyday people helping average everyday people.
You know, we truly do put the client first.
Our mantra has been, when you take care of people, people take care of you.
Appreciate you being with us on Conquering Retirement. Wouldn't you want a copy? Version 2. We've updated. So Conquering Retirement is the book that Lance has put together. We're talking about it this morning because it simplifies your retirement plan. It is a layout of a written strategy. And then when you come in, after you call 877-241-7430, this book is yours, as well as your complimentary written financial plan. So we're going through what we talk in prep. We go into chapter 2, and let's get into the 5 risks that you go into chapter 2. The enemies that you say of a financial plan that's going to stand, that we have to make sure that we're dealing with the enemies. The first one becomes, at least in your book, long-term care. 7 out of 10 that we say all the time of those over 65 are going to need some type of long-term care, and the odds increase as you get older. So how do we plan for long-term care as defeating the enemy in chapter 2?
It's a huge thing. It's long-term care. It's like the elephant in the room. And the problem is it's not going to go away if you just ignore it. Like some problems, if you just kind of ignore it, well, maybe hopefully it'll just go away. You know, that annoying call from spam, you know, and if you just don't pick it up or whatever, maybe over time they'll just stop calling. Well, the long-term care issue is not going to go away, no matter how we try to avoid it. And avoiding it is not a plan. We need to face it head on. And the interesting thing, we talk about preparing for battle, the book actually starts out on the battlefield in Operation Desert Storm and preparing for the battle, preparing for as the combat forces were waiting to initiate Operation Desert Storm from the Shield. The Shield was waiting, in preparation. Now we're going into the storm. But what has to happen before the storm starts? The obstacles need to be removed. That's preparing for battle. And so one of these obstacles that we talk about in terms of preparing for your retirement and trying to get to the point where we feel like we're conquering retirement is you need to squelch all of these obstacles. You need to eradicate them, and then you can go on the offensive and be proactive versus reactive. Long-term care is one of these things. It's not going to go away. We need a game plan. So what are our options? And there are options, and that's the problem, is people just do not know what their options are, but you have options. And so when you come in, we're gonna talk about this and say, do you have any type of planning for long-term care? 7 out of 10 people are gonna need it, and I would say less than 95% of the people actually have a plan. Brett.
Yeah. Okay. We'll move past that into market risk, which is where most people are in our accumulation phase, maybe for multiple decades. How do we now plan for that as the runway shifts?
So typically what we like to see is first identify what someone's risk tolerance is, right? And they can do that through the NAF risk quiz that we have available to identify.
nafriskquiz.com. The idea is, where are you right now? What's your risk tolerance? Then to what's your risk capacity?
Correct. So
Okay.
your tolerance and capacity are two completely different things. Tolerance is, hey, I feel like I can tolerate, X, Y, and Z, but my capacity may not be as high because I have a much smaller 401k, right? It took me years to get into the saving process. I had a lot of medical bills or whatever it may be. It took a while for me to build my retirement nest egg. Well, if all you have in retirement is for $100,000, it may not seem like it's enough to walk through the door, but how much more important is it for us to safeguard that money? Because that
absolutely.
is all you have,
Right.
right? And so it doesn't matter about how much money you have. For the individuals that have millions on millions, they have a lot of freedom and flexibility because of what they do. But for individuals who may have $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 for retirement, you really need to safeguard that and make sure that you are not taking on any unnecessary risks with your money.
Okay. We have so much more to get to. I want to make sure that you get a chance to get to this before we move forward. It is the nafriskquiz.com. You can scan the QR code here with your phone. You can go to the website. Am I ready? What kind of risks am I taking? What's my tolerance for loss? Do I need to change some of my strategies? It is all about making this a little bit more simple. It's why the book has been updated. You say, I'd like a copy of that book. Okay, this is probably something that you want in your hands so that you can refer to it. And you can get that at 877-241-7430 as you come in for a complimentary written financial plan. There's so much more intricacies within this, but we want to make it simple. You need to know what you have, what potentially you could lose, and what is the what-if plan for all of these risks that you may be dealing with? It's hard to do alone, which is why Northern Alliance Financial is trying to make it simple for you. Complimentary written financial plan. There's no charge. Nothing's being sold. The idea is, how do we create peace of mind for you in a plan that is going to take you into and through retirement until your very last breath? 877-241-7430. Would you like some help? We'll talk about more that you need to know when we return.
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. After nearly a lifetime on the job, you should be rewarded for all the time you spent working. Whether that's crossing off items on your bucket list, learning a new passion, or rekindling the love of an old one. After all, life isn't over when you stop working. It's the start of an all-new chapter. The one where you're the writer and you get to choose how your story will go. A way to achieve that is by having a clear financial plan to sustain your golden years. The biggest fear most retirees have is if they'll have enough money to maintain the lifestyle they've always enjoyed. Having a plan to help protect you against the curveballs life often throws will help to maintain your lifestyle. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Glad you're with us on Conquering Retirement. Want the next edition that Lance has put out? This is yours. We have the number on your screen, 877-241-7430, for a complimentary written financial plan. And the book is yours. We're going through some of the problems, some of the enemies that may be attacking your retirement plan. So I want to put up naftaxtest.com because we're getting into the next enemy that may be approaching, maybe the biggest enemy that we have approaching, which is why you listed. And we talk about the taxes changing all the time. The one thing that does not change is Uncle Sam wants his. And,
His share.
we're trying to figure out how to do this. Why is this the biggest enemy? And people fail to realize it, especially with a lot of advisors who don't talk to them about taxes.
Yeah, it's a significant challenge, right? Because it's one of those things that there's only really a couple of guarantees, death and taxes, so they say, right? And Uncle Sam typically wants more and more of your money. So it becomes another element of threats that we need to face and deal with in our retirement planning, because most people are okay paying their share of taxes, but they don't want to pay any more. And if there's a way to pay less, they're all over it.
Yeah.
So that's what we want to do.
All right, let's work into inflation. 25% more expensive to live now over the last 5 years since COVID hit. And yet the government's telling us we should be using a number somewhere around 2 plus inflation. 50-year average is 3.8. How do we figure out what inflation numbers we're using? And is it imperative that you use that within a plan to say it's going to be more expensive to live as your retirement may go into 10, 20, 30 years?
Yeah. I mean, probably one of the most short-sighted things that an advisor could do is not take into consideration inflation. If you're not talking about inflation and making sure that the rates of return on your portfolio are keeping pace with inflation, that's a plan to fail, right? Because our dollar today needs to be worth $1 a year from now. And if if you have all of your money in the bank and you're maybe earning 0.2% interest, guess what? The value of that dollar, even though it's safe and feels good because it's in your bank, you're losing the fight to inflation. And so we build plans with an inflation factor on everything, right? We need to make sure that our plans are built with inflation in mind, in ensuring that we can provide a steady, predictable, reliable cash flow throughout your entire life with inflation, and ensuring that you don't run out of money.
See, and this is maybe something that your advisor that you've been with has not talked about, hasn't brought up. naftaxtest.com is one of those hurdles that you have to go, because you're going to have to play with those numbers of the numbers that the government wants from you, and maybe the strategies that you have as we move into inflation. Talk about tax numbers, talk about inflation numbers, things that haven't been said. Go to this site, get an idea of what you may owe and the enemies that are at hand. All right, I want to hit what you list as enemy number 5. Why is enemy number 5 the death of a spouse?
Well, it's just like anything, Brad. People just don't think about that. And it's inevitable. We're all going to check out of the planet at some point. What we don't know is when, but we know it's going to happen. And so part of our process and planning is to look at contingencies and say, okay, well, we have two individuals right now. We've got a couple, they both got pretty solid Social Securities. They've paid off their debt. So the two Social Securities combined are now going to meet our budget need, not a problem. Everything else we've saved, it becomes fun money. So we can do those fun things, those goals, like go to Alaska or go on some special trip. I've got couples that are happy just going to camp and spending time with their grandkids, but their grandkids might be in Wyoming, so they got to use some of that money to travel. I have others that really got an RV and just went around the United States. That was their goal. They wanted to go out west. They wanted to see some of the great national parks. Whatever it is, it's wonderful, right? But now what happens if one of the spouses passes? Now we're down to just one income, and our budget might be here. The budget, when one spouse passes, might drop a little bit, but usually not significantly, Brad. So now, instead of using this big bucket that we've saved for fund money, we might not need to now take a portion of that to compensate for the fact that we need to make a little bit more income. for the remaining spouse, the widow. Plus, we have to think about taxation as well. So the point is that we need to think through this to make sure that irregardless if one spouse passes, which is going to be inevitable, either one, the survivor will still be okay until their last breath. That's peace of mind. And that's where we want to go with our plan.
Well, the idea is having a family plan. I know you guys talk about, hey, when you're in, you're part of our family now, but you'll have people come in, husband by himself. I pretty much do this. She's not coming with me. Wife by herself. I do most of the stuff. He works. I do the finances. I'll be the only one. And the encouragement is this needs to be a team thing. Even if one's doing most of it, the other needs to know what's happening, especially as we take over the plan to say, this is your money. This is how it's best managed. This is the advice that we're going to do. The encouragement is let's do this whole thing together, right?
It is. It is. And the thing that is probably most alarming in this process, if only one spouse comes in, is things get lost in translation, right? I may be communicating something to a married individual just by themselves, and then they try to regurgitate all of this information to their spouse, and they're like, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? And so things get lost in translation. Yeah. And the other thing that's extremely powerful about working with a financial professional is that we are fiduciaries. We are looking out for your best interests, and it's coming from an objective third party. Yeah. It's not your spouse barking orders. Yeah. This is coming from a professional, right? It's not like, hey, this is how it needs to be done. This is what this guy says. And they're like, well, I'll believe it when I see it. It's like, no, I'm actually getting this advice from a professional. He's got our best interest at heart. Okay, I'm going to be more receptive to this information than if it was just my spouse.
Let's put a family plan together for you. And the book can be yours as well. Going to the tax test, now you need to make the phone call. 877-241-7430. The book is yours. Let's put together a complimentary written financial plan that is yours, that doesn't get lost in translation. 877-241-7430. Thanks for your time here. Hope it helps. Can't wait to see you in the office. Back here next time on Conquering Retirement.